There are stories we think we already know. Stories from familiar faces, from people we see on our screens every morning, smiling, laughing, bringing warmth into our living rooms. But sometimes even the brightest personalities carry memories that shaped them, moments that aren't tragic, but meaningful, moments that remind us that behind the confidence and charm, there's a human being with a history, a heart, and a journey. And today, we explore one of those stories from Kelly Ripa's past, an unexpected moment of sadness she once shared, in a way that surprised fans not because it was dramatic, but because it was honest. Most people know Kelly for her energy, her lightning-fast humor, her witty comebacks, her ability to make even the most ordinary conversation sound like the funniest thing in the world. But this story takes us to a different time in her life, a time before the cameras, before the fame, even before the confidence she is known for today. It began years ago, when Kelly was still figuring out who she wanted to be. She was young, ambitious, hopeful, and secretly terrified of failing. She once described herself as the girl who overthought everything, the girl who worried too much, the girl who tried to appear fearless even when she was shaking inside. And in this story, she revealed a truth about herself that many fans didn't expect. She wasn't always the Kelly Ripa the world knows, bold, bubbly, unstoppable. There was a time she truly struggled with believing in herself. One particular moment from that time stayed with her. It wasn't a dramatic event, not a crisis, not a tragedy. It was a quiet, personal struggle. A moment of unexpected sadness that shaped her future. She was in her early days of performing, long before television, long before she knew Mark Consuelos would walk into her life and flip her world upside down with one smile. Kelly had just auditioned for a role she desperately wanted. She rehearsed nonstop, practiced lines for hours, convinced herself this was her chance to prove something, not to the world, but to herself. But when the cast list went up, her name wasn't there. She stood among a small group of hopeful actors, each scanning the list eagerly. One by one, the others found their names, their eyes lighting up with relief and excitement. Kelly, however, felt her heart sink. She looked once, twice, 3 times. Her name wasn't there. Someone behind her whispered, "You'll get the next one." Someone else said, "Don't worry, you're good." But in that moment, none of it mattered. She walked away quietly, feeling something she rarely talks about: disappointment, self-doubt, and yes, a touch of unexpected sadness. She didn't cry, she didn't complain, she didn't tell anyone, not even her closest friends at the time. Instead, she walked all the way home, sat down on the edge of her bed, and asked herself a question many people ask during their hardest moments. Am I good enough for the dream I'm chasing? It wasn't the rejection that hurt. It was the fear that maybe she wasn't meant for this path at all. And that's where the story takes a turn. Because this is the moment, this quiet, lonely moment, that shaped her more than any success she ever achieved. This is where Kelly began building the version of herself the world knows today. Later, she shared this story not to talk about sadness, but to remind people that every dreamer faces doubt, even the ones who seem unstoppable. But there's another layer to this story, one that fans found both sweet and unexpectedly romantic. Mark Consuelos had no idea Kelly once carried this memory. It was years after they met, years after their love story began, when Kelly casually brought it up. She didn't expect it to matter. She simply mentioned it in passing, laughing lightly as she described younger Kelly trying to hide her disappointment. Mark didn't laugh. He looked at her with that signature Mark Consuelos intensity, the one that makes people feel like he's listening to every word, every breath, every emotion. He gently reached for her hand and said, "I wish I had known you then. I would have told you were already enough." Kelly, who was usually quick with a joke, found herself speechless. She raised an eyebrow and replied, "Really? You would have just appeared next to teenage me like some confident superhero?" Mark smiled. "Absolutely. Cape and everything." Kelly burst into laughter, exactly the reaction Mark wanted. He continued, Seriously, I wish I could go back and tell that version of you that she was already destined for everything she dreamed of. She just didn't know it yet. It was such a simple exchange, yet it meant everything. Because Kelly realized something that day. Her personal struggle from the past didn't define her, but it played a part in making her the woman she became. Stronger, funnier, more confident, more compassionate.
The story didn't end there. Kelly explained that after that early disappointment, she made herself a promise, a tiny, personal vow. If one person tells me no, I'll find 10 reasons to say yes to myself. That vow followed her for years. Every time she auditioned, every time she stumbled, every time she doubted. And yes, even during the moment she met Mark on the set of All My Children. Because as she told the story, she admitted something she had never said publicly before. When I met Mark, I had finally reached a point in life where I believed I deserved good things. And somehow, the universe delivered him right on time. Mark's reaction? He placed a hand on his chest, jokingly swooned, and said, "Please, say it again. My ego needs this." Kelly rolled her eyes and replied, "I knew you'd ruin the moment." But she was laughing. He was laughing. And fans watching the clip fell in love with them all over again. The unexpected sadness from her past wasn't a tragic loss. It wasn't a shocking confession. It wasn't a dark secret. It was simply a moment that taught her resilience. A moment that reminded fans that even the brightest stars have shadows behind them, but those shadows don't define them. They shape them. And as Kelly shared this memory, she wasn't emotional in a dramatic way. She was reflective, even grateful. She explained that if she hadn't faced that disappointment, if she hadn't felt that sadness, if she hadn't questioned herself that day, she might never have pushed herself to grow. She might never have taken the risks that led her to the career she has now. She might never have joined All My Children. She might never have met Mark. She might never have built the life she loves. One small moment, one unexpected sadness set the stage for everything that came afterward. And that's the heart of the story. It reminds us that behind the glamour, behind the fame, behind the confidence, every person has a past shaped by small turning points. Some joyful, some painful, some funny, some confusing. For Kelly Ripa, this story is a reminder that dreams aren't built only on success. They're built on the courage to keep going after disappointment. They're built on the willingness to laugh at yourself. They're built on the unexpected moments that later become the stories we tell with pride. And if there's anything Kelly teaches through her journey, it's this. You don't have to be fearless to succeed. You just have to keep moving forward, even when you feel unsure, even when you feel sad, even when things don't go your way. Her past didn't break her. It built her. Her struggle didn't stop her. It shaped her. And the moment she shared this story, fans understood her in a new way. Not as a TV icon, but a real person. A person who once felt small. A person who once cried quietly on the edge of a bed. A person who doubted herself. And a person who rose anyway. Today, her life is filled with love, laughter, success, and her partnership with Mark, who continues to support her, tease her, adore her, and remind her daily of just how far she's come. In the end, Kelly's story isn't one of sadness. It's a story of growth, a story of resilience, a story of the little moments that shape us in big ways. A story that proves that sometimes the most unexpected sadness leads to the most unexpected strength. And that is why fans connected with her confession so deeply.